Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this in one go, so if I stumble over my words going forwards, I apologise in advance, and also I apologise in advance if the quality of this video isn't too good. Sadly, this is the best I can do. If there's any lag, sadly, it cannot be helped. Hopefully, it's not going to be too much of an issue. So, I was thinking of what video to film on this Saturday evening here in England, and I was going to make a video talking about countries that I really think need to improve when it comes to the Eurovision Song Contest. So I was going to sit here and talk about Georgia and Armenia and Spain and the UK, and I probably will make that video at some point. Some of you might be interested to hear my thoughts, but instead I thought that I would film the first part of what will be a two-part video talking about, and I can't believe I haven't actually filmed this video before, but here we are, my top 30 Eurovision Song Contest songs to date, 1956 to 2019. So a little bit of a history for you, I suppose. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I've been a Eurovision fan since 2003. That was the first contest that I remember watching. I really got into the contest circa 2007-2008. I started paying more attention to the national finals only in about 2012-2013. So in terms of building up my knowledge of the contest as a whole, it was a slow process. And in terms of really ranking my favourites, that is always a slow process too. About 7 or 8 years ago, I first compiled my top 30 Eurovision Song Contest songs to date. And then, obviously, with each passing year, I would update the list if necessary. Earlier this year, I completely changed it. I went through all the Eurovision Song Contest songs that I love and came up with an updated top 30. Now, obviously, I'm sure you're the same. You listen to a song one day and you really love it, and then the following day or a week later you don't like it quite as much, so therefore it should be ranked a bit lower, or maybe it should be ranked a bit higher, I don't know. That's the case with me all the time. When I'm ranking a certain year's entries, it's always very difficult, apart from a select few which will always be in the top 5 or always in the bottom 5. It's a really difficult process. Anyway, I'm rambling, this is not good. I want to keep it short and to the point. I'm going to get straight into it. This is the first part of my top Eurovision Song Contest songs to date. Now, I will make it clear that the overwhelming majority of these songs are from the 21st century, despite the fact there were more contests in the 20th century. That does not mean that I dislike a lot of the songs from last century, not at all. It's just that they're not quite good enough to make my top 30. But who knows, in the future, maybe when I'm a bit more mellow and chilled out and wiser, some songs from like the 70s or 80s will make the cut. But for now, they don't. So I'm going to get into it. Let me know your thoughts. I have my notes in front of me here, and I'm going to go from number 30 to number 16, and then in the second part of this video, which I will be filming at some other point, maybe I'll film it later, I'm not quite sure, but it will be up on my channel at some point. So, my number 30 is Norway 2003. This is I'm Not Afraid to Move On by Jostein Hasselgaard. The 2003 contest was fantastic. What a brilliant show to watch, to be introduced to this marvellous extravaganza. It was held in Latvia, of course, the only time they've staged it. The UK finished last, the less said about that the better, with 0 points. But the Norwegian entry finished 4th out of 26 nations with 123 points, and it was leading the voting for a little while until Turkey, Belgium and Russia sort of pulled ahead. This was a piano-driven ballad. Jostein, very young, blonde hair, casually dressed, couple of backing singers over to one side. He was just pretending to play the piano for 3 minutes, but it's a very beautiful, pretty song, and I wouldn't say that his vocals were incredible, but for this type of song, I think that he actually sang it very well, and it was a really simplistic performance as it should have been, and 4th place, well deserved. My number 29 is Belgium 2010, another low-key entry. This was Me and My Guitar by Tom Dice. This was a return to the grand final for Belgium after several years away, many disappointing results. This song finished 6th with 143 points. It did very well in the semi-final. The juries really appreciated it. The public less so. And in fact, if it had been 100% public votes, then Belgium would have finished considerably lower on the scoreboard. He was one of very few musicians that year to use the catwalk, had his guitar. There was this sort of minimal golden lighting to the whole performance. Really nicely done, sounded great, looked beautiful, and a song that absolutely deserved to finish in the top 10. My number 28 is Denmark 2011. This was New Tomorrow by a Friend in London, a band that are no longer together, although the lead singer is making solo material. This song was performed early in the 2011 final, but finished 5th out of 25 countries with 134 points. It wasn't the most colourful or vibrant performance, but this is a really good song. It's a sing-along, catchy number, all-male group, and at one point the lead singer kicks a huge inflatable ball into the crowd. The competition was staged in Dusseldorf in Germany that year. So a fantastic stage, fantastic atmosphere, and again, this song would have finished considerably lower if it hadn't been for the juries. The public, for some reason, were just not so keen on this. Not much else to say. My number 27 of 30 is Italy 2016, which I think is a contender for one of the most underrated Eurovision songs of this decade. No Degree of Separation by Francesca Michelin. Francesca, very young at the time, only about 19 years old, if that. Really likeable. I watched loads of interviews with her online, and she's probably one of my favourite Eurovision competitors of the past decade. She didn't win the Sanremo Festival, she was second, but Stadio, who did win, didn't want to go to Eurovision, so the runner-up Francesca took their place. This song, really gentle, very beautiful, perhaps not memorable enough to really leave much of an impression on the audience, which probably explains why it finished 16th out of 26 nations with 124 points. It was the first year with the new voting system. But that's a really disappointing mark, and it's strange to think that Italy finished so low because we're so used to Italy doing very well. Anyway, the staging was a bit strange. Francesca was performing on this fake patch of grass. There were things next to her, a pair of glasses, I think, balloons, I can't quite remember. It all sort of tied in with the music video, which was also a bit strange. She was wearing dungarees, if I recall. Looked good, sounded good. It was on early, and it wasn't stand out enough. But a really great Italian entry, which has been forgotten in the years since. My number 26 is a song that did not qualify for the grand final. It's Ireland 2009. Now, I absolutely remember watching the music video for Etc. by Sinead, Mulvey and Black Daisy because I was at school. I was in one of the computer suites, and I remember being on my lunch break and watching the music video for this song. I very clearly remember it. And I remember thinking that it was going to be one of my favourites of that year, and it is my second favourite from 2009. Any guesses what my number one from that year is? Maybe you'll find out in the next video, who knows. But this song, yeah, A sort of rocky number from the Irish, and again a song that's long been forgotten. It was underrated at the time. The performance was okay, the vocals, yeah, not brilliant, but not really poor either. It was performing second in the second semi-final, and it missed out on the final, finishing 11th out of 19 countries with 52 points. But a really fine song, I've always liked it. I always like a bit of rock in the contest. Moving on to my number 25, and this is a song that I think a lot of people would have in certainly their top 30 of the decade. It is Italy 2015. The competition was staged in Vienna, and the Italian representatives were Il Volo, already very successful pre-Eurovision, with Grande Amore, which is Italian for great love. This would have won if it wasn't for those pesky juries. Instead, it finished third out of 27 countries with 292 points. That's a big score for a song that's only finishing in third place. This was classy, a vocal masterpiece. They were all dressed smartly. I expect nothing less from Italy. A very classy, like I said, performance. It was on last. It stood out. It was a cut above almost everything else that year, and it probably should have won. It really probably should have won, and I think the Italians felt a little disappointed they didn't win. But nevertheless, third place, fantastic. Great song. I can listen to it very regularly and never get bored. Superb. Moving on, another song from 2015 now. My number 24 of 30 is Norway, 2015. This is A Monster Like Me by Mørland, Kjetil Mørland, and Deborah Scarlett, who I believe was born in Switzerland. Ginger hair. They were both wearing sort of muted colour outfits. He's tried to represent Norway since as a songwriter and as a solo musician. Great singer. The two of them sounded very good together. There was good chemistry. It was a very simple performance. Very interesting lyrics. I did something terrible in my early youth. What's that all about? Who knows? We still don't know. We'll probably never find out. But this was terrific. A really high quality entry that I think has long been forgotten. It finished 8th with 102 points. Fair enough. This was never going to win. Probably should have finished a few places higher. I just thought it was a terrific performance. You saw Kjetil Mørland on stage, and then after that first chorus, the camera panned, and in comes Deborah, looking fantastic. Just a wonderful, wonderful performance. Moving on, or else this video will be 6 years long. My number 23, it's another Danish entry, and I think the title of this song is very fitting. It's Denmark 2012. It's Should Have Known Better, and the public should have known better, performed by Soluna Samay. Soluna was born in Guatemala, I believe, still making music today. In fact, she released a new single a couple of weeks ago. And this song was performed on stage in Baku, and I thought it was terrific. I just thought it was a really gentle, acoustic sort of song. There was a sofa on stage, a man playing the cello, wearing a hoodie, I believe. Can't quite remember. It's been a while since I saw the performance. She was wearing a hat. Quite young at the time, probably about 22, 23. Can't quite remember. But this song was a fan favourite, and it just finished nowhere. 23rd out of 26 countries with 21 points. That's really low. The juries weren't so keen on it either. I find that quite baffling. Maybe it wasn't high impact enough. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, next up is another song from 2012, Estonia. What a terrific entry into the competition this was. I felt sure that the juries were going to rank this much higher than they did, but they didn't, alas. This was Kula, which means listen, performed by Oit Lepland, who is still making music today. This was totally stripped back. He was dressed quite smartly, barely moved on stage. There wasn't much else going on around him. It was all about the voice, and the voice was absolutely sensational. Some of the best vocals I've ever heard in the Eurovision Song Contest from a male musician. It was in Estonian, which is also fabulous, and this finished 6th out of 26 countries with 120 points. You may remember in the voting that Estonia were nowhere for so long and then surged as the voting procedure came to a close. Terrific, terrific song. I'm glad people appreciated it in the end, although it probably should have pushed a little harder for the win, in my opinion. Then we move on to, would you believe it, another song from 2012, my personal winner from 2012. I love the Danish entry, I love the Estonian entry, but this one still is just my favourite from that contest in Azerbaijan. My number 21 out of 30 is Iceland 2012. This was Never Forget, performed by Greta Salome and Jonsi. Greta has represented Iceland since, in 2016 not qualifying. Jonsi represented his country in 2004, finishing in the bottom half. The two of them came together for this ethereal, beautiful, striking number. Greta pretending to play the violin. Never Forget, brilliant song. Again, big fan favourite, and it flopped. It finished in 20th place with 46 points, despite the fact that some people genuinely thought this was a contender to knock Sweden off the top spot come the contest, because Sweden were such clear favourites, and obviously they won. This was a really nice performance. Maybe again it wasn't high impact enough, it was on early, but even so, that's a really poor result for what is actually a very good song, and I think it's probably one of Iceland's most underrated entries ever. Let me know what you think. Moving on, my number 20 is my personal winner from 2008, and it didn't qualify. And to this day, 11 years later, I still find that really quite surprising. This is Switzerland 2008, Era Stupendo, It Was Wonderful, performed by Paolo Meneguzzi. Terrific song. Starts off quite slow with the piano, and then it builds up, and the chorus is quite catchy. A really sort of charismatic, handsome looking musician front and centre, but I think people just forgot about it. This was one of the favourites to win, and it absolutely flopped, and I was really surprised at the time, and I'm still really surprised now talking about it. It finished 13th out of 19 countries in the second semi-final in Belgrade with 47 points. Just a real shame. A really decent song. Again, you could say that this isn't high impact enough, but it should have qualified. It really should have qualified. Anyway, hopefully the quality isn't too bad. Hopefully you are agreeing with me on some of these songs. That would be pretty interesting. Next up is a song from the 20th century. About time too, you might be saying. My number 19 is the United Kingdom 1997. This is my favourite British entry in the contest to date. It's going to take something truly remarkable to beat it. We all know the song Love Shine a Light, performed by Katrina and the Waves, an American band. It's worth saying Katrina still performs all over the place. She's always abroad somewhere performing. I think she is at the moment. She is a terrific musician. She's spoken about Eurovision on British TV loads of times over the years. And Love Shine a Light, you know, maybe it's a bit cliched, but what a winner. A big winner. And I think if you go through all the Eurovision songs, and there's a lot of them, over 1,100 I believe, if you go through all of them, this really does stand out, and probably is the unofficial Eurovision anthem, because it's a song about people coming together, love shine a light, you know, sing along, hold hands, all of that business. It's what Eurovision really is all about when you think about it. A really terrific entry, and it won by an absolute mile, and rightly so. First out of 25 countries with 227 points, which I believe was the biggest points total for a song up to that point. You had Katrina on stage. She was wearing a sort of green shirt, which I think she bought from a charity shop, and she just belted it out, and she still sounds that good now, believe me. Moving on to my number 18 of 30, and this is my winner from 2005. It's another rock sounding entry. It's another entry for Norway in this list, In My Dreams by Wigwam. I mean, this stood out an absolute mile on stage in Kiev in 2005. Lots of flashing lights. Lead singer was wearing a very tight, sparkly outfit. He was waving the microphone stand around. He had this orange flag on the end of it, tying in with the Orange Revolution that was happening in Ukraine. I mean, it was just fabulous. It was maybe a bit camp and maybe a bit over the top, but it was a really good song, quite repetitive. But this was one of the favourites to win. In the end, it didn't really come close. It finished 9th out of 24 countries with 125 points. Not bad at all for a rock song. Moving on, I should say, my second favourite from 2005 is also a rock song, Switzerland, Vanilla Ninja with Cool Vibes, but that didn't quite make the cut into my top 30. But I know a lot of other people really like that song as well. Moving on to my number 17, the penultimate song I'm going to talk about in this video. My number 17 is from 1994. It's the oldest song in this top 30, and it's the winning song in real life, Ireland. Rock and Roll Kids by Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan. This, for me, is perhaps the most underrated winner there's ever been. Well, certainly to date. And certainly when Ireland were winning so frequently in the 1990s, this is definitely my favourite out of their 4 victories. I mean, they were on home soil, piano, guitar, nothing much going on, sounded terrific, beautiful, 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 beautiful song. There's a real timeless, effortless quality to this entry. It's absolutely wonderful. I can't believe some people really, really don't like this song, because I think it's terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific. It's the best Irish winner, in my opinion, and Ireland have had some good winners, believe you me. This song finished first out of 25 countries with 226 points, 1 point less than what Katrina achieved a few years later. Anyway, the final song I'm going to talk about in this part is my 16 out of 30, which is Spain 2016. Say Yay! Not the best title for a song, admittedly, but the song itself is actually very good, performed by Barre. She was wearing a sort of basketball-type vest dress on stage. It was gold, if I remember. There was this moment where she pretended to fall over, and there was a pause, and then everything started up again. There were some cool camera techniques, nifty tricks with the camera work towards the end of this performance. This was such a fan favourite. I was absolutely sure this was going to stop the rot for Spain, and they were going to finish in a really respectable position for what is a very up-tempo song. It flopped. The live performance was a massive disappointment for me, actually. It was as if the energy from the studio version had upped and left. It had been left in Spain. And when Barre was on stage in Stockholm, that energy didn't come across at all. It was all very, well, bland, I guess, but a really good song. The studio version's excellent, and I know this song is so popular, and certainly was so popular amongst Eurovision fans. It finished 22nd out of 26 countries, doing better with the juries than the public, with 77 points. And it is my winner from 2016, although Italy runs it close, and I've already mentioned that song. So there we go, a massive rambling video. Hopefully the quality wasn't too bad. In my next video, I'm sure it will be my next video, I'll be talking about the remaining 15 songs in my top 30 Eurovision songs to date. I'll give you some hints. Feel free to leave a comment guessing what these songs are if you so wish. We have a song that did not qualify last year. We have a song that did not qualify at the turn of this decade, which is actually my number 1 Eurovision song to date. We have a brilliant runner-up. We have a fan favourite that finished 7th. We have only one more song that's not in English, and that's from 2 years ago. We have a punk song, and we have 2 songs from this year's contest. So feel free to guess and let me know what your thoughts are on the songs I've mentioned so far. It's maybe a bit of an unconventional list, but there we are. And it's always changing ever so slightly, and this time next year it'll look different because songs from the 2020 contest will be involved. But anyway, this video is long enough, and I'm going to now crack open this drink and relax, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you very much if you've watched this. I know it's a long one, and until next time, feel free to let me know your favourite Eurovision songs to date. Maybe your favourite Eurovision songs that didn't even qualify for the final or win a national final. Let me know. Until next time, cheers and bye for now.